who are creating these regulatory bodies? We are the ones who are creating all this, right? So I think see two things. One, of course, we can ask questions at a very, very meta level, saying that why are we doing this way as a country and all that. That's a very meta level question, and most of us, unfortunately, do not have power in changing those, systemic level stuff, unless we aspire to be at that level and take decisions. The question is, what can we do at our level? So what can you do in your class? You are a teacher, right? So what sort of real changes that you can bring in at your class, right, on a daily basis, that some real change can happen. I mean, he is sitting with us. So honestly speaking, it's teachers like him that actually caused us, that made us think big. See, I grew up in Mysore in a sort of middle class family. Our aspiration was very, very similar to the aspiration of all the students that you see here. Okay, so can you believe that when I was 18, I didn't know that institutions called IITs exist. I honestly didn't know, because this was pre-internet era, right? Nobody told us. In fact, you will be surprised. So those days it used to be called AIEEE. What is today called JEE Mains was being called AIEEE. Somebody told me that there is an exam called that, and they said it would be a practice for you to write the CET exam. Go and write that exam. My parents didn't accompany me. There was some registration I did. I went to some school in Bangalore and wrote it. So my All India rank was around 500 in JEE Mains. And my parents didn't allow me to leave Mysore, because they thought it's a very far away place to go to Surat or whatever. They said stay back. So I stayed back. Now, after I went to a place like JCE, I met people like him, and they had such profound impact in the way I think. People like him introduced me to places like IIT. So now I went on to do things in life. I went to teach at IITs, whose existence I didn't know. So now I sincerely, genuinely believe that a good teacher will have phenomenal impact on people's life. See, today I think a lot of things have gotten corrupted in the sense that everybody has exposure because of internet. But in spite of it, students are like, people who are young do not know what to consume, what not to consume. Because there's so much of information overload there that students get overwhelmed. And also, most of the information that's out there is junk, because there are all kinds of people dancing and doing whatnot, and all of that is consumed. Right? That apart, the thing is, as people who are a part of pedagogy, we should start asking questions that are very, very relevant and uncomfortable to ourselves. Right? So, as I said, it's very daunting to ask that question. So now imagine, there's a sort of insecurity, honestly tell me, right? And if you, suppose you don't make attendance compulsory, do you think you can still attract students to your classes? If you don't, then what sort of a teacher are you? I'm talking to myself as well, right? If you cannot, if students can't see, life is all about value exchange. So now if you're not convincing your consumers or students that what you are delivering has value, then what sort of environment are you creating in your classrooms? So I think that's the first question that all of us have to ask ourselves. That what sort of value are we creating by making our students come to our class? Maybe you can make an experiment where you just say that there's no attendance, you come if you want, and see how many students would turn up. That's a reality check, isn't it? Right? So now you may ask, maybe there's a boss who's sitting above me and they want me to take attendance. Give everybody 100% attendance. We can do that. Of course you can do that, right? I know that you can do that.
It eventually happens, right?
Yeah, sure. So now fundamentally what I'm trying to ask is that we should start asking tough questions to ourselves, and we should deliver value to students. Yeah.
I'm really sorry to cut you off, sir.
No problem. I
have 3 questions for you. My first question to you is, now as a student, right now you said there is so much information out there, we are not clear on what to consume and what not to consume. So now if I am sitting in front of my computer and I am talking to ChatGPT translate to our skill, or should that gap still exist because we are already in 2025? And my third question to you is, how safe is the information that I learned from AI? Because one answer that GPT gives me may not be the same that DeepSeek may give me, given that I am able to prompt it. So how do you think we approach this? And most importantly, in your keynote speech, you said the reality of AI taking over jobs is very real. So as an upcoming youth, how do you suggest we come around that? How do we overcome that and become formidable that we have a position irrespective of what changes happen through AI? Meaning, how do we leverage AI to have a position in the professional world?
Okay, too many questions, but yeah, very relevant. Yeah. See, one other thing that I keep telling my students is that that at a meta level, right, I keep asking, I'm audible, right? I mean, I don't have to. So, one other thing that I always see is that we as a country, right, we discourage dialogue, right? So, see, most of you have children. I have a 3-year-old. So now, human beings are by nature inquisitive and curious, right? So I say that the school, right, and colleges, they are places which are systematically designed to make people less curious. No, they are actually designed that way. I mean, if you look at history, how these places were built, they were mostly built by the East India Company, right? And these people wanted, by design, to create people who do not question. And they designed it that way, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think, in fact, so one other thing that you should do as faculty or people in the business of pedagogy is incentivize your students to ask questions and question status quo. I'll give you an example, and you can have your own methods to do it. I have an example in my class. All along, I mean, it has been 8-9 years now since I started this profession. All along, in the very first class, I tell my students that anyone who can ask a question that I cannot answer will get a grade out. This is something that I've been doing, and there have been 5 instances. I know what questions these people ask, and all of them ended up being good papers, right? So I told them that if there is a question that you people can ask me that I cannot answer, right, you will get 1 grade out. So that is one real thing that you can do. Right? So you incentivize people to ask questions. So that is one huge thing. My daughter keeps asking me so many questions, and she tells me that when she goes to school, she's scared and afraid, and she's disincentivized to ask questions, because that's the way we are building our pedagogical systems. Very unfortunate. That should be very, very meta level, but at least at your class, you do something where people will start asking questions. Okay, anyway. So now, I think the first question that you asked is, how do we interact with GPT, right, so that it will start mentoring. See, the thing is, I think the first thing that you should do is, one good thing is, one thing that in my opinion has never changed is, fundamentals don't change. Okay? So what are these fundamentals that I am talking about? Human beings are still hungry, we still want to eat. Right? The fundamental way the human society functions. Now you should see, more than technology, right? These days, we need to study more anthropology and history and human history and so on. I don't know if you know this guy, who is a very celebrated anthropologist by name Yuval Harari. The guy who has written this book called *Sapiens*. If you have not read it, you have to read it. It's an extremely good book of how human beings evolved as a species. So fundamentals don't change, right? So he's in one of his interviews, he was asked this question that now GPT is there, right? I mean, and human beings are there. So now what makes humans humans? Interesting question to ask. What is it that makes human beings, right? So now he says that it is to suffer is to be human. GPT doesn't suffer, right? It's not sad that you scolded it or whatever. So now, so the thing is, the fundamentals don't change. So now, I think as a student, if there is one advice that I want to give is that ensure that your fundamentals are extremely strong. Right? For instance, I pursue serious AI stuff and I build algorithms and all that, right? I don't use GPT, we build GPT, right? How do you do that? So mathematical foundations such as probability theory, linear algebra, matrix theory, calculus, and so on. These things don't change. Right? So now what I tell my students is that don't worry, don't focus your energies on learning a very, very high level or a meta level skill. That's very easy to acquire and replace. Right? So now it also answers your third question, that how do we position ourselves in this scenario, right? The only way to do it is to acquire something that is extremely hard to be acquired by one other person. That is how value systems exist, isn't it? See, who is valued in society? What is valued in society? If you look at it, what is the thing that is rare is what is valued in society. Why do you think diamonds are costly? Because they are rare. Right? So you have to be rare. There is competition, it's very, very real. Okay? How do you become rare? Is the question. Acquire something that a lot of other people don't have. Now what is that? What I have seen is that most people who talk about AI and all these so-called technologies, right, they are only operating at a very, very superficial level. Now, know things at a very, very deeper level. So how do you do that? Fundamentals. Get your fundamentals extremely strong. Right? So that's it. I mean, once you, in fact, my own journey, right, and when I did my PhD not in AI, and that was old school signal processing. Okay. Now, whenever these new things come up, picking it up is a week's affair for me. Right? So why is that possible? It's possible because the kind of fundamentals that I had during my undergrad training and like graduate level study training are so strong that going from technology A to technology B is not at all difficult. Right? I think as students at undergrad level, you should focus all your energy in acquiring, making your fundamentals and foundations very, very strong. Now this is where I think a lot of students miss out in India. Their fundamentals are shaky and weak. Okay, so now I don't know, like suppose you come from say computer science, right? Algorithms, right? The foundational algorithms that are out there have to be extremely strong. See, that is a non-negotiable thing. Now what happens is, people, because of all the noise that is out there, students, right? They keep going from place A to place B at a very, very superficial level without making their foundation strong. Now, thank you. So now, like, spend 4 years and then you get exposed to industry, you get your day job and life goes on, and you will never get your time to make your fundamentals strong, and this will bite you for your life. Right? So now is the time, okay, where you actually spend time in making your foundations very, very strong. Don't worry about the meta things. Don't worry about the high level things. And that is where I think teachers should also help. Right? Where you have to make their foundations so strong, the fundamentals so strong, that when they go out, they have the necessary skill sets. So now, again, that answers your second question also. Right? Academia and skill sets. Right? What should academia do? I tell you, because you don't know what questions to ask and what to learn, a good teacher will fill you there. So he or she will tell you what foundations you should build, right? So that you can navigate whatever high-level things that you might encounter in your job. So those foundations, in fact, that is where China was very different than us. I'll tell you what they did at a policy level. India, after independence, a lot of money was put in higher education. Right? IITs were opened, right? But the primary education was completely ignored. You don't have, China did exactly the opposite. So they said 5 decades, we will concentrate all our energy on foundations, on fundamentals. Everything can be built upon that. Right? The problem is, most of the students in our country, when they come to undergrad college, their foundations are so shaky, right, that nothing can be built on top of it. So anything that you build will be a facade, and that comes out. See, how long can you cheat? Right? You can cheat in your undergrad project, and I know how undergrad projects work. I think I am in IISc. I am proposing in all meetings, I'm saying that you should scrap the master's project, and we are almost there. We'll do it. So I said it's a facade. I mean, like you are agreeing. Don't force anybody to do things that they don't want to do. So that's the base of corruption. See what happens? People will find all kinds of ways to bypass your system, and they'll go. I mean, there will be a business that will be out there who will sell projects for money, right? And you are trying to cheat your teacher, and teachers knows that you are cheating, and they still want to catch you. So you build an excess of negative energy around, and that becomes a college. So unfortunate. Why? Like there's cheating all around. Ask real questions and make your foundations so strong. Don't create facades. Create people who are very strong foundationally. Now, tell me this. I don't know how many of you teach computer science here. How many of your students can solve leak code challenges? How many of your students even know that leak code exists? Yeah, see, ethical questions and behavioral aspect is a different thing altogether. That's something that is boggling our society at large. Now, how do you make people to be ethical? That's again right. If you live enough, if you live long, life will teach you that being ethical and honest is the best way to get the highest reward. And even if you look into it from a reward maximization perspective, tell students the reality. Tell them that, guys, I tell them this. Again, you might ask me this question, right? I give them assignments, right? So now, how do I know that my students don't use GPT? Okay? I tell my students that you are free to use GPT. Assume that your students have access to GPT. Work harder to what is. I tell them this. That look, here is an opportunity for you to learn. My job is to facilitate you to learn. Right? Now, if you choose not to learn, it's your headache. Just that you don't get caught. If you get caught, there is a penalty. Now, if somebody wants to game the system, let them game the system. But you assume that they have access to. Why are you assuming that your students don't have access to GPT? Assume that they have access to GPT, right? And try to create a system where people are incentivized to learn. And try to tell them that learning is her question, right? So now it's very easy for you give an assignment, you paste it on GPT, get your solutions and give it to your teacher, right? I mean, then you run term written or whatever and all that. And I tell you a joke. One of my students actually did this, and I appreciate that student for doing that. You know what? There were two assignments, two reports, exactly identical. Now you give it to term written. Okay. So what this guy did was PDFs have to be uploaded, right? Now, have two editable word files, exactly same, okay? And fill every gap between every consecutive word with some gibberish. Fill it with some random characters, okay? Change the font color of all that to white, so that when you convert it to PDF, what you see is a good report, but everything in between has characters that have no meaning. Now compare these two with Turnitin, and they will be extremely dissimilar. That's all. I mean, he or she has learned how to game the system. Good. Yeah, you create an image. Just that's it. I mean, people see. That's what I'm telling you. People will cheat. I mean, that's going to happen, right? I mean, assume that people will cheat. I'm not telling you that you should not have checks and balances to not catch people cheating and all that. You do have your checks and balances, and tell them that if somebody get caught, he or she is unfortunate that they got caught. Okay, penalize them with whatever penalty that you have, but make students realize that it is in their best interest not to cheat. Right? So now that is the only way to operate. Now, isn't it? Right? The way, you have to convince them that their best way of the thing is, suppose there's a group of 100 people, right? 99 people cheat. I'm a recruiter. I come to your class, right, to recruit. I am looking for some sort of rarity, right? So the one person who does not cheat, right, is the one person that I would hire. So that is one opportunity to become rare. So now tell people that it is in your best interest not to cheat. right? I mean, as I said, no, that's a different question altogether. But pedagogically, what can we do? I mean, from a standpoint, get your fundamentals very, very strong. See, I'll tell you, there is no alternative for sitting down there, understanding a particular subject, solving problems, pertaining problems, going to a good textbook, that is the way we have learned. When we learn probability theory, you go to Popolis or any of the standard books and solve problems. Right? How can your teachers help? Is that I genuinely used to get stuck in solving a particular problem. That's when you approach people and ask them, here is where I have stuck, tell me how to solve this. Solve it together. See, for you as teachers, it's a learning exercise. I mean, if you have signed up for this profession, you have signed up for lifelong learning. I mean, of course, I'm talking in a utopian ideal world. Of course, we have our daily breads to be won. Of course, this is a job and all that is fine. But some sort of justice has to be done, isn't it? So now when students come to you with genuine problems, you either know it or not know it, right? If you don't know it, say don't know it, and learn with them together. I mean, I'm sure that all of those kinds of things you know. The thing is, what happens is, right? I mean, there's a sort of some mental block that is out there that would stop us from admitting that there are so many things that we don't know around, right? I mean, once you cross that barrier, it becomes fun. Teaching actually becomes fun. Tell your students, again, it's may seem like self-boasting, but I'll just tell you as an example, right? So my classes are always oversubscribed. Some 200 people take it. So these are electives. This is not core courses or anything. People take it because they want to take it. I don't have attendance. I don't even know what students come to my class, right? So I see 200 people sitting in my class in day one, right? When the course ends, the last class, I still see 200 people sitting in my classes, right? So now there should be something, right? I mean, you are delivering some value to them. Deliver value, right? And the sense of value changes. It's a function of time. Today, what is valuable may not be valuable 2 years later. That's the profession that you are in, Keep changing yourself. See, there is one thing that I'll tell you. If you are not employable in the top-notch industry in your field today, then you are not a good teacher. Now, let's ask all of us this question, that suppose we start giving the interviews that our students give, how many of us will actually crack those interviews? Right? If you are not doing it, if you are not ready to do cutting-edge stuff that good industries are doing, then we are doing injustice to our students. So I think we should. All of us know that industry pays 5x or 10x more money, right? In spite of it, we should choose this profession because we want to do it. It's a service that way, right? So now, how do you create value? You create value by, first of all, you should have something to give, right? So you have to keep reading stuff, keep at your toes always and try to understand what's happening. You can't teach 20-year-old stuff today. That is when you have to do all these kinds of things that attendance is compulsory, you have to come to my class, otherwise you will be penalized and all that, because there's that insecurity that would tell us from our inside that what we are delivering is not valuable. No, we try to create pseudo value by having some sort of useless incentive like an attendance in our class. That because otherwise it's an existential question for us. Now, if you deliver value, students would come. There's no other way, because everybody wants value, right? It's a value exchange. We are living in a society where values are exchanged. So now you deliver value, people will take it. You're a businessman, you know that, right? The only way to create a sustainable business is to create value. Otherwise, the society is too brutal, right? I mean, they will.
Is that the whole idea of ChatGPT and people not looking at stuff? Many of the brightest ideas have come from copying over other ideas.
Exactly.
So it's an incremental growth, right?
Yeah.
They wrote on the shoulders of the end.
Exactly.
It's an incremental small growth in terms of the area. Like he said, easy which are happening in the area. Visualizing area, omics branch is coming. There are several things that are happening.
And none of it is happening in India. That's real, very, very sad, extremely sad. Extremely sad. Nothing is coming from India. The reality is that we keep talking that we are a Vishwaguru and all that nonsense. It's nothing. Exactly, right? I mean, the mindset is so. See, everybody is looking at a job. There's nothing wrong. I'm not being judgmental, but the thing is, uh, there are no job creators, right? I mean, people are not thinking. So basically, foundationally, what has happened is that we have created generations of people who do not question, who do not think. As simple as that. That's. Come again? Which language? These are called, yeah, okay. By the way, GPT is one of the many language models that are out there, right? These are called language models or large language models, LLMs, okay? GPT is one of the LLMs that is out there. See, depends on what sort of task are you looking at. Personally, I have found Claude to be much better. Okay, Anthropic's Claude. There is a language model called Claude. Okay, at least for tasks where you are looking at some code assistant kind of thing, right? Claude is much better. GPT is okay too. So let me flip my question to you. Why do you want to use a language model? Where? You're using your language model, right? Where are you using? Why do you want to use language model? Depends on that. Right? So now, my students generally use it to solve their assignments and all that, right? So for that, Claude is pretty good, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Are we out of time? Because I can stop. Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. See, research is one other thing, right? I mean, again, where there is a lot of dishonesty has crept in. You publish paper for the sake of it, because there is some metric that is out there. You need to get your next promotion, and you publish. Let's be real, right? I mean, of course, why are the conferences run? See, I'll tell you again. Please don't count this as sort of being disrespectful for these kinds of things, but I'm just speaking my mind up here. Now, there are these conferences that are called NeurIPS and ICML, right? International Conference on Machine Learning, Neural Information Processing and Systems, and ICLR, and these kinds of places where serious stuff happens. By serious stuff, the technological needle actually gets shifted. New ideas do come up. New ideas that would change the way the world is working would come up in those conferences. Those are the conferences that are valuable, right? Now, if you are a serious researcher, you better get your papers published there. I'll tell you. Now, publishing there is not easier than winning a medal in Olympics. Because you are competing with the world. You are actually competing with the world. There are Chinese, there are Americans, there are Russians, there are European people doing cutting edge stuff, who's who of the world, trying to push the needle of the technology, right? You are competing there. Now, try to have your focus at those kinds of things. Try to start doing stuff that is useful. Whatever you are doing might be useful to you in the sense that it is getting you your next promotion, right? But I think someone has to break that chain. See, for instance, if I would run a college, I would do either of two things. I would promote everybody. Be real, and ask your people to do what they are good at doing, what they are capable of doing it, and make them do it in the best possible way, and incentivize them for doing that. Don't create a system, a pseudo system, where they are incentivized for doing substandard and mediocre stuff. That is the kind of system that we are creating, where people are publishing papers because they have to publish papers. Let me be honest. Publishing paper in an unknown conference which is not pushing the needles of the technology is useless. Why are you even doing it? I think the first thing to be done, right, at least in IISc or premier institutions anywhere in the world, in my opinion, IISc is also not doing what it is supposed to do, right? We have to level up our games. But in those places, okay, the first thing that I ask my students to do it, at least read and understand the kind of papers that are being published in those top avenues, and at least get to a level where you pick up a paper from ICML or NeurIPS and you read it and you don't get scared by looking at those papers. Now, if you just do this experiment, pick up a NeurIPS paper, right, on any topic that you think you know, and try to understand that paper end to end, notwithstanding all the mathematical equations and detailing that is there. Can you do that? Right? I'm asking you honestly, right? I mean, I'm sure that most of people who are around here can't do it. Why? Because our fundamentals are weak. We don't know. And we don't aspire to play that game at all. If you don't aspire to play that game at all, then what contributions are you making? Right? The first thing that is to be done if you really want to do serious business and serious research is that look at where serious research is happening. Serious research is not happening in conferences like these. I mean, again, I'm humbly and very, very respectfully saying this. Again, as I said, this guy we called this. I mean, I don't mind if you don't call me again, right? But this is the reality, right? Start looking at places where. Okay, so let me tell you something. There's an algorithm, all this GPT, etc., right? Internally, they use one of these algorithms one of these ideas called reinforcement learning human feedback, RLHF, right? So in RLHF, you need something called a reward model, right? Where, excuse me. So which is used for RL training. Now there is an algorithm that came from Stanford just 2 years back, which circumvented this problem of having a reward model. This is called direct preference optimization, or DPO. Okay, this actually came out of university. This did not come from industry. DPO came out of Ermon's lab from Stanford. Okay, now that got published in NeurIPS 2 years back. Now that's a contribution. Now after that came, right, lot of these language models started becoming very, very good. So do our students even know about this? Are they aware of what's happening around? See, now you're asking me what language model to use. That's not the question to be asked. Right? If you have to aspire more than that. You have to ask questions like, how can I build the next DeepSeek? Right? That's the question that we should be asking. So for that, it's a very, very long journey. It's like asking how do I win 50 golds for India in Olympics? Trust me, it's a question that is as difficult as that. We are that far away. Right?
But having said that, I just think you don't need large amounts of people to make a change. Start thinking like what you're doing.
But I'll tell you something. That will happen only if you kindle a large amount of people, right? Right. So that, I mean, the success rate is always 10%, 5%. But you have to invest in a large group. Right? So, like, who will talk the truth? Right? Somebody has to tell these people that, guys, enough is enough. Start reading NeurIPS papers. Right? If you can't understand, do whatever it takes. Let me tell you something. Do you think we as a country are intellectually inferior compared to China? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'll tell you what. We have some sort of inferiority complex, because again, as I said, 300, 400 years of colonial rule has made us like that. Generations after generations, we are built like that. I've seen my own students, right, coming from random places. They spend a couple of years with me in my lab. They go out to some college in the West. A decade later, these are very different people, right? I mean, the ecosystem changes them. The way they think, I think that's the kind of mindset that we have to bring at all levels. This should definitely start at the schooling level, right? I mean, and at our homes, right? See, at least we as parents, we should incentivize our children when they ask questions, especially when they ask questions that make us uncomfortable, right? So yeah, I mean, most of you talk Kannada, right? ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ತಲಹರಟೆ ಅಂತ ಬೈತಾರೆ, like no, that's actually a good thing, right? You should incentivize people for being ತಲಹರಟೆ. right? Asking questions that's completely out of your comfort zone, and that's where it should start from. Of course, it's a long journey. I don't know how to. I mean, in most of the places when I talk like this, people will ask me, how can we change this? Maybe I should venture into politics and become some minister or something. I don't know, right? I mean, yeah. But the question is at our levels what we can do. So there's always when you go to a corporate company, right? At the end of every meeting, they talk of actionable items. You should tell us what to do. All this talk is okay. Everybody can talk. Tell us what to do, right? As I said, as faculty, one thing that you can do is, of course, at a pedagogical level, start doing experiments. Be honest to yourself, right? And don't impose attendance and all this. Assume that your students are much smarter than you, right? They are much aware than what you are, and they are much smarter than you. And try to create value in whatever way, right? Where students will come to you because you provide value. Don't try to impose stuff. So now, how do you create value? There are multiple ways to do it, right? Of course, you need to be reading always, on your toes, and trying to understand what's happening around and try to tell them. Right? So this is one real thing that you can do. That's one action item that you can do. The other thing is, of course, researchers who want to do research, please stop reading papers from some international journal of some computer science and engineering technology. Please stop doing it. Okay? There's something called core ranking, CORE. Okay? Core ranking. Always aim to publish or read papers from core A-star conferences. Okay. I already told you names, right? Like ICLR, NeurIPS, ICML, right? These kinds of AAAI, ICICS, these kinds of conferences. Start reading papers from there. Okay. I can guarantee you that, or rather maybe that might be an overstatement, most likely you will not understand those papers, and you will feel very disappointed that I am not understanding this. It's okay. That's how we start. Okay. Now, if you invest a good 2 to 3 years in yourself, you can train yourself to get to a level where you can understand those stuff. It's worth it. Okay. Get to that level. So now, how do you do that? That's for another day. I mean, if you're interested, I can. As I said, no. Coming to Mysore is always a pleasure. My parents live there, and I want to come to Mysore as frequently as possible. I can tell you, pointed courses that you need to do. There are courses. There are very good courses out there. MIT OpenCourseWare and elsewhere. NPTEL is a very good source to learn good stuff. Okay, there are extremely good courses in NPTEL. You have to go back to your student days again, right? Maybe perhaps become much more than a student that you were when you were students because you didn't get good teachers, perhaps, right? Do a course because you want to do it. Solve exercise problems in standard textbooks, right? Seek help. Become very good at foundations and fundamentals. And I tell exactly same thing to students. If they want to pursue a research career, make their foundations extremely strong. Now, invest in yourself for 2-3 years like this. Okay, it's worth it. Then you will reach a stage where you will start making sense of these papers that are published in these places. Right? I'm telling you, once you create that initial barrier, entry barrier, it's fun. It's extremely good to understand those papers. It's very good. And the kind of ideas that people come up with, the kind of things that people come up with, extremely nice to understand. Right? So then all these inferiority complexes and the kind of insecurities that you would have would just vanish. See, imagine, right, a situation where you are seeking for the next job or next promotion. From there, you get to a place where you think that I create so much value in the society that there are 100 people looking at me to give me a job. Believe me, I have went through that transition. You will be surprised that I was groomed in my family to seek a job in one of these colleges in Mysore and settle down. That's what my parents used to tell me. Right? Today, I find ISC to be suffocating. I don't want to be in that place. Right now, I'm on a sabbatical. I'm working with a big company. Because I think that things that are being done in ISC is not enough. I could see the transition in myself. I have a couple of companies. We are trying to build products. We are trying to sell stuff and all that. I've gone through the transition because I have gone through that pain. I was not very different from any one of you here. But that pain is very real. Right? Where you'll be surprised to know that I studied all my schooling in Kannada medium. when I went to the pre-university college stage into an English medium school, it was so daunting. Because I used to get scared, okay, when people used to talk to me in English, because I don't know how to respond back. I still remember, right? There was this one dictionary which I fondly cherish. It was called a standard dictionary, that red color stuff. I have it with me, which is an English to Kannada dictionary. There were days where I told my mother that higher education is not for me because I don't understand anything that's happening around, right? But she said, give it a shot, let's see what happens. Today I'm here. And it's possible, right? It's a lot of hard work. The thing is, right, we should be very, very honest to ourselves. If you don't know, you don't know. Even today, as I said, right, I'm not making this up. I still tell my students that if you can ask me a question that I don't answer, you get 1 grade up. And every student, every occasion where these kinds of questions have been asked, they have went out to be very good papers in one of these places that I just mentioned. And people do come up with good questions. You just have to incentivize them. That right mindset is what is to be bought. It's very, very important to get to that mindset. And as all of you teachers, invest in yourself. Don't try to, see, there will come a time, suppose you clear all these barriers and get a paper in ICML. You will be living in an ecosystem where people don't understand the difference between publishing in ICML and publishing in some other international journal, let's say. I'm sure. That's the time when you should up your game and leave the place and go to a place where people actually respect and understand what you are doing. And that's how people grow. there's nothing wrong about it. Right? Always look for growth. What's the next big game that you play? When people play sports, right? High jump and all that. There's always that next height that you need to conquer, right? See, you're an entrepreneur, you know that. See, growth is the only way to sustain. There is no sustainability without growth.
That is something you keep checking constantly.
Absolutely.
If I'm in my team and it reaches the point that nobody can ask a question that I cannot answer, it's problematic.
Very true. Exactly. Yeah. So now you have to ask questions. What is pedagogic growth? How do you grow? You should. Okay, fine. You start somewhere. There's some paper that you're publishing and all that, but you have to ask yourself, the paper that I'm actually publishing, is it really impactful? Right? Yeah. Please. Sure. Okay, see, ನಾನು ಪ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್. ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆಯಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸರಿ, ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆಯಾ, ಇಷ್ಟನೂ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಇವಾಗ. ಸೊ ಆರಾಮಲ್ವಪ್ಪ ಅದು. ನೀನು ಏನು ಓದ್ತೀರಿ, ಯಾವ ಬ್ರಾಂಚ್ ಓದ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದರ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಷ್ಟೆ. ಇದು ಒಂದೇ ಟೈಮ್, ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 4 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನೀನು ಯಾವುದೋ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಓದ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಟೈಮ್ ಇದು. ಆಯಿತಾ? ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವುದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸು ಅದು ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಸನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಟೈಮನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಅದು ಸಿಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಟೈಮ್ ಸಿಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ. ನೋಡಪ್ಪ, ನನಗೇನು ನಾಟ್ ಅನ್ ಅಸ್ಟ್ರಾಲಜರ್, ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಇದು ಪ್ರೆಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಬಟ್ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನೂ ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ, ಮನುಷ್ಯರು ಹೊಸ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸನ್ನು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಯಿತಾ? ಆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸಿಗೆ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇನ್ನೊಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಜನ್ರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಆಂಥ್ರೋಪಾಲಜಿ ಓದೋದು ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ. ಐ ವಾಸ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ವೇರ್, ಐ ಸೆಡ್ we wanted to build AI so that it does my daily job and I start pursuing things like poetry and painting and all that. Now what has happened is AI is doing poetry, painting, and I am doing the mundane job, right? So in fact, if you look at ಅವನು ಸ್ಯಾಮ್ ಆಲ್ಟ್ಮನ್ ಇದು GPT ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದವನು, ಅವನನ್ನು 4-5 ವರ್ಷದ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅವನ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ AGI ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಅವನು, ಅಂದರೆ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್, ಆಯಿತಾ. ಯಾಕೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ಯಾ, ಅದನ್ನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾನಿಟೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯ ಅಂತ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವನು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ನಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾನಿಟೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ, ನಾನು AGI ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನೇ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾನಿಟೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಟ್ರೂ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ, ರೈಟ್. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಆದರೆ ಒಂದೇನು ಗೊತ್ತಾ, ನಾನು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಡ್ರಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್ಕೇಪಲ್ಲಿ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ವಿ ನೋ ಆಫ್, ಅದಂತೂ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ, ಆಯಿತಾ. ನೀವು ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ಸ್ದು ಪವರ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಂತ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆಯೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ವೋ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ರೈಟ್. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮ್ಲಿ ಪವರ್ಫುಲ್, ಆಯಿತಾ. ಸೊ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದರಿಂದ, ಏನು ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಡ್ರಾಸ್ಟಿಕಲಿ ಚೇಂಜ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ರೆವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಬಂದಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಲೈಫ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಯಿತು ಹಾಗೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಏನೋ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ನಾವು ವಿ ಆರ್ ಅಟ್ ದಿ ಥ್ರೆಶೋಲ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಿಷನ್. ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಮಧ್ಯ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಜನ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಕೊಂಡು ಕ್ರಶ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ ಅದು. ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್. See, that I don't know. I don't know how far are we. How far are we? I think that might be a very detrimental thing to human race, right? Right? I mean, people should flush off. I mean, you can't afford to live forever. So again, that's a different thing. But I think ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು, ಸ್ಕೇರಿ ಇದೆ, ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸರಿ. ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಲೆವೆಲಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ. ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂದರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಸು, ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ಸು ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ತುಂಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕೀಪ್ ಯು ಸಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ದಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಲಿವ್ ವಿತ್. ರಾ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 10 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಕರೆನ್ಸಿಲಿ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೆ. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಕೇರ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರು ರೆಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಜಾಬ್ ಆರ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಗೋ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇಫ್ ಅವರ್ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಥ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಪ್ಪ. ಇನ್ನು ಯಾವುದೇ ಬ್ರಾಂಚಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಏನಾರು ಮಾಡು, ಇದು 2 ತುಂಬ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಆಯಿತಾ. ಮ್ಯಾಥು ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಂಗು, ಇದು 2 ಎಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೆರಿಫರಿ, ರೈಟ್. ಇನ್ ಆಲ್ ದಿ ಅದರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ that can be very easily obtained from all these LLMs. Math and programming. Basically, what is math and programming if you think about it? It's a systematic way of thinking critically. If you are posed a problem, right, I keep telling people that there's no other way to solve it than converting it into a mathematical problem, because that's the only way of precisely putting problems into things that are solvable. See, for me, mathematics is no less, no more than a language. Learn it very well. Of course, applied math is programming, because you have to convert your solutions into deployable stuff. Start to learn programming.
LLM itself is convert language to numbers. Exactly. So again, very very strong foundational mathematics and programming. Oh, okay. So one other thing, right? I don't know. I see, programming is literacy. It's basic literacy. So it doesn't matter what you do. If you cannot code, then you are gone. It doesn't matter. See, that's like it's literacy, right? See, today English sells alva prapanchadalli. Java, any kind of object-oriented programming. See, if you know the foundations of programming, going from language A to language B is not difficult. But if you are picking up newly, I suggest Python. It's accessible ಅಂತಷ್ಟೇ. But programming is like it's a foundational thing. It's literacy, minimum literacy. Any branch engineering, it doesn't matter. In my view, all these compartmentalization of engineering skills as branches has to go away. There is no mechanical, there is no civil, there is nothing, right? I mean, in fact, a lot of IITs are doing this, right? IIT Gandhinagar, for instance, there are buckets of courses. Take anything that you want. Take anything that you want. Yeah, a student can choose depending upon what their interests are and all that, right? I mean, why do you have this compartmentalization and say that, everything stems from existential crisis. ಯಾವುದೋ 20 ವರ್ಷದ ಮುಂಚೆ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಡ್ರಾಯಿಂಗ್ ಯಾರೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಅಗೇನ್ ನೋ ಡಿಸ್ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ಎನಿಬಡಿ, ರೈಟ್, ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಇವತ್ತದು ಔಟ್ಡೇಟ್ ಆಗೋಗಿದೆ, ಬಟ್ ನಂಗೆ ಬರೋದು ಅದು ಒಂದೇ, ನಾನು ಏನು ಮಾಡಲಿ? ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಅದನ್ನೇ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ. ಆದರೆ ನೀನು ನನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು? ಐ ಮೀನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಸಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬೀನ್ ಅ ವಿಕ್ಟಿಮ್ ಆಫ್ all these things, right? I mean, ನಾನು ಇಂಥವ್ರು ಯಾವ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿದ್ದು, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಏನಂದ್ರಿ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ನಾನು ಸಿ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಅ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಿಟ್ ಒನ್ ಕಂಪನಿ, right? And I'm doing my second venture now. Market was brutal. Okay, see, if you are not recording stuff, I can tell you a lot more. Right? But anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can quote me on this. See, market is. See, capitalism is very good according to me. Nam problem as a nation ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನಾವು I mean, somebody said that we are socialist, ಆಯ್ತಾ? But we are not socialist. Are we utopian socialistic utopia like Scandinavian countries? ಸ್ವೀಡನ್ ಥರ ಅಥವಾ ಡೆನ್ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಥರ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ನ ಮತ್ತು ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಕೇರ್ನ ಫ್ರೀಯಾಗಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸು ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸೋಷಿಯಲಿಸ್ಟ್. ಅಥವಾ ಬ್ರೂಟಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅಮೇರಿಕಾ ಥರ, ಅದೂ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಏನು ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಏನು ಅಂತ, ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನಾವು ಏನು ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವತ್ತಿನ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೋ ಅದು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟು ಅವನು ಬ್ರೂಟಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಅವನು, ಆಯಿತಾ? ಸೊ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಭಾಷೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. But I think capitalism is good because if you are not creating value, ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಬ್ರೂಟಲಿ ಪನಿಷ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿದ ದಿವಸ ಯು ಆರ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್. ನನ್ನ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವೆಂಚರ್ ಏನಾಯಿತು ಅಂದರೆ, ವಿ ಡಿಡ್ ಅ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೇಟೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ IP, ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ಸ್, ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಡೀಪ್ ಟೆಕ್, ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ವಿ ಗಾಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅವಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ರೆಡಿ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬ್ರೂಟಲಿ ಪನಿಷ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿಂಗ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ, ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಮುಚ್ಚಿತು ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಒಳ್ಳೇದೇ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು. ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಲಾಂಗ್ ರನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಕ್ರಶ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಹೌದು, ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸೊ ಕ್ರಶ್ ಆಗದಿರೋ ಥರ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ. ಸೂಡೋ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಏನು ಒಂದು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಕರಪ್ಟೆಡ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮನ್ನು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳು ಮುಚ್ತಾ ಇವಲ್ಲ ಇವಾಗ, ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಚ್ತಾ ಇವೆ? ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ನನಗೆ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ತಾನೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸಿ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ನೇಮ್ಸ್. ಬಟ್ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಕೆಲವು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಡೌನ್ ಸಿವಿಲ್, ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್, ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್, ಆಯಿತಾ? ಯು ನೋ ವಾಟ್ ಕಾಲೇಜಸ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್. ಅವ್ರ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತು 2,000 ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 1,800 ಜನ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಓದ್ತಾರೆ. ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇಟ್. they are very clear about it. We are in the business of creating people and it's fine, alva. See, ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳೋದು, ನೀವು ಸಮಾಜ ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸಮಾಜ ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸಮಾಜ ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸಮಾಜ ಸೇವೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬೇಡಿ. ಬಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಆರ್. See, that's the point. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ I started all this thing by saying that be honest to yourself, ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಅಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ಸ್. ಸತ್ಯ ಮಾತಾಡ್ರಪ್ಪ, ಆಯಿತು, ನೀವು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಮಾಡಿ, ಸಂತೋಷವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿ. ನೀನು ಬಾರಪ್ಪ, ನಾನು ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ, ನೋಡಪ್ಪ, ನೀವು ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಜಾಬ್ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಇರೋದು. ಫಾರ್ ಸಮ್ ರೀಸನ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್, ಫಾರ್ ಸಮ್ ರೀಸನ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್, ಓಕೆ, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ ದಿಸ್. ಟೆಲ್ ದೆಮ್ ದಟ್ ಆನೆಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ, ನೋ. Be honest with whatever you are doing, right? I mean, that's the only way. That's all. If you are doing research, I mean, you tell yourself that, okay, I'm doing research for whatever, right? I mean, ಈ ಥರ ಇನ್ಸೆಂಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಬಟ್ ಐ ನೋ ದಟ್ ಮೈ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಎನಿವೇರ್, ರೈಟ್? ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರೂತ್, ನೋ? ಗುಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯು. ಸಿ, ಅಗೇನ್, ಇನ್ ನನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್. ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಇದು ಮಾಡೋದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು, ಇದು ಮಾಡೋದು ಸರಿ, ತಪ್ಪು, ಇದು ಕೆಟ್ಟದು, ಇದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು ಅಂತ ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಜಡ್ಜಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿಬಡಿ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ವೆರಿ ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಡ್. We are constantly judged, right? So we are judged on our colors, we are judged on the money that we make, we are judged based on the clothing that we wear, right? I mean, that's what politicians have to do, because unless we are judged and we are we are made into community. In fact, very interesting thing, I'll just say this and stop. There's this guy Yuval Harari that I admire, right? Amazing guy, you know. He asks a question. He says that, look, what do you think has enabled human beings, okay, in being what we are today? None of the species, right, have done what we have done, right? Now, we are not the fastest, okay, we are not the tallest, we are not the mightiest, nothing, right? But it's just something that should have made us what we are today. He poses this question, and he says that it is the ability of human beings to work in groups. That's the unique thing. Work in groups. We create community and we work in groups. That's no, you cannot convince animals. See, think about it. Today, we are an excess of 8 billion people. So the shirt that I am wearing today is made in China, right? So I am interacting with a guy in China, right, via consuming his product. So we are working as a community, a community of 8 billion people. Now, the next question is, how is this possible? How can you make a large amount of species, right, work together in groups? It's because it's only human beings, okay, that believe in stories. Think about it. All our economy, finance, business, science, everything is a story. And the most successful person is the one who can tell good stories. I quote Yuval Harari. He says that you cannot make 100 or let's say a million monkeys to come together and tell them that, look, you fight a war, right? If you die fighting in this war, you will go to you will go to a monkey heaven where you get 100 bananas. No monkeys will fight a war believing in the story. But you can convince 1,000 human beings telling that you fight a war and if you die, you'll go to a heaven, you get a lot of things, and people fight wars believing in stories. Right? So it's our ability to work in groups, believing in a story is what makes us successful as human beings. The problem is, at least in the subcontinent called India, we don't know what our story is. Right? We don't know what are we working towards. I mean, we don't work in groups. We don't collaborate. Right? So we work for ourselves. We are too selfish. Right? I mean, the point is, if you don't work in group, you don't progress. That's the reality. But okay, what is my next promotion? What is my next thing is what people think of, right? Nobody thinks of what will happen to my community, what will happen to a group of people that are out there. That's what it is. Anyway, I think, enough of philosophy. Thanks for the opportunity. As I said, I could have very easily given a very deep technical talk, right? But yeah, I mean, I do have a set of video lectures, which is there on YouTube. You can just go and type my name on YouTube. I teach a course on generative models in IISc, right? I've recorded all those lectures and put on YouTube. So if you want to consume, you can always consume that, right? But yeah, so think about it. If you're a student, make your fundamentals strong. If you're a teacher, be honest and see how you can create value in your community. Right? If you're a researcher, start looking at the real research that is out there and try to contribute whatever little that you can. Right? So all the best to all of you. And again, my apologies if your sentiments are hurt by whatever I said. But yeah, opinions are free, right? You can completely ignore whatever I said. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. I hope everyone has something to reflect upon and something to take home. On behalf of everyone present here, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
I request everyone to kindly assemble near the front gate here for a photo session.
ಇಲ್ಲ
ಅಲ್ಲ ಹಾಟ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಇತ್ತು.
ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓಕೆ ಫೈನ್.
ಹಾಟ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಇತ್ತು.
ಇಲ್ಲ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಅದು ಅದೇ ಹಾಂ ಈಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟವ್ರೆ ಅದು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಕ್ಕಿರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಂ ಅದು ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ.